With my local syndicate out of action for a week, I've come up to a very busy Oxford. Welcome to the Journeyman's Tales. Well, it's just coming into the early evening now. It's about 6:30. Just finished having something to eat. Rested a bit after the usual fun and games of getting the camp set up and the rods out and baiting up and all the rest of it. And the wind is slowly dropping, which is nice, but it's still quite cool. That residual heat is disappearing fast as the sun's going down behind me. And all is fairly quiet. The guy opposite came round for a chat earlier on. He had a few fish yesterday and one last night. So they are out and about. I have seen a couple of small shows off to my right out of my water. But yeah, I think we're in a good swim. Now it's incredibly busy here. The lower car parks were full. Just couldn't park in them. So I didn't even stop to go and have a look around. Came back up here, and quite frankly, if this swim hadn't have been available, I'd have gone home. It's that busy here. But one of the beauties of it is, even though there are a lot of swims with a lot of people in, you don't feel as if people are sitting on top of you. You feel nicely remote, which is what I like, really. And as always, the geese are out. So I've got 3 rods out, about just over 12 wraps out. I've put out a fair bit of mixed spod because you can use all manner of things up here. So there's a lot of hemp gone out with the corn, mixed in with some boilies that have been soaking for a good 24 hours. I've also made up some crumb that I've heavily laden with some oil over the weekend. So that's going out mixed with it as well. So I'm mixing up a bit of the dry crumb, or the oily crumb, with the spod mix, if you like. Just a bit at a time, just enough to put out so it doesn't dry out. So that's gone out, and I've gone out with the slip D rig on 2 rods with the monster crab, wafter on it. This time I've swapped the OMC bladder liner for the magger liner for no real reason other than I can, actually. And just as an experiment and something to for me to try, because I get bored using the same old stuff, is it's a rig I've seen from Matthew Collins. It's a bit like the basic complicated rig, but it's got a bit of a twist to it. It's got a added bead on the shank of the hook to provide a bit of a kicker. So that's gone out there with one of my Pacific Fruit Wafters on, and a bit of corn, because there's a lot of corn gone out there in the mix. That's the plan. The rods are all set. That's them for the night now, unless something exciting happens. As I say, the sun is going down. The wind is beginning to drop. It's quite calm. I think it's going to cool off quite a bit later on. And yeah, I think we're in with a good chance here. Well, we're just coming into early Tuesday evening. I've just finished my tea. Had a bit of a chicken carbonara. I haven't tried that on the bank before, but that seemed to work out okay in the Ridge Monkey. Now, I can't make up my mind where the fish are feeding out there, but I put a couple of kilos of the mixed spod in with the crumb and some salmon oil around about 1 o'clock, almost 1, something like that, and it is slicking up a treat now, but no fish where it counts. Actually, I've seen 1 or 2 stick their heads up long range and 1 short off to my right. They're not showing over the baited area, but there's something down there certainly disturbing it. But I have had that before up here where it's been slicking up and nothing seemed to have happened. So anyway, we'll see what occurs. It still feels good. So everything's usual. Why it's not going on, I've no idea. But we'll give it tonight and reassess things in the morning. If nothing's happened overnight, I think I'm going to head home. We'll see. Well, good morning. As you can see, I've changed swims, or more bluntly, I've packed up and gone home. As it happened, it turned into a bit of a nightmare trip. Some of the stuff I didn't cover on the bank, but on the first morning when I woke up, the middle rod, instead of the line going straight out to the baited spot, it had shot off to 45 degrees for some reason or other. No bleeps, no nothing, no indications. Brought it in, and the line had parted. It had gone a fair way out, so it must have been fairly close to the leader, but the leader was missing, nothing there. Checked the line over, it looked reasonably okay. And basically that was just the start of it. Obviously re-rigged, put everything back out again, continued fishing. I think the early hours of the following morning, I got a storming run off the left-hand rod, and when I got out to it, it was bent round at 90 degrees virtually to the left. Something had obviously gone through on the margins, picked up the line and taken me under a tree. Fortunately, it managed to release, and I got the rig back. And then as I was slowly considering whether to pack up or to stick it around, the recast left line went off again, pulled up tight. So I moved towards the rod in anticipation, and off it went about 300 miles an hour, struck into it, nothing. So at that point I thought, oh well, I've had enough of this. We're never going to get anywhere. So I came home, basically, and I was re-rigging some of the lines and checking them out. And one of them, I'll show you the damage now. It looked as if I was been scraping it backwards and forwards over a brick, basically, but I thought I was fishing on something, or over the back of something slightly harder. Now, whether that was gravel or whether it was a zebra mussel bed, I've got no idea, but it certainly scraped up the line. So I've checked as much as I can on all 3 rods and removed any damaged area. But at the end of the Blackthorn Pines trip, I was asked a couple of questions about this Dairy Fruit Wafter that I was using. So I thought I might as well end the video by going through how I produce those baits. When I first started making my own dairy fruit pop-ups, I was using the CC Moore Life System base mix because I basically had some line around that I could experiment with. But nowadays I tend to use the mainline 50/50, which is, there's no flavour to it, so I haven't got to put extra flavours in to counteract the built-in flavour of the base mix. So this is more just a milk protein type base mix that's got no distinguishing flavour to it. So that's what I tend to use now. And I use the Polaris, mainline Polaris pop-up mix. So I use 2 parts Polaris to 1 1/4 parts of the base mix. put it in a plastic bag, give it a good shake up so it's well distributed. And then I use a large egg. Now I find a large egg will give me about, or getting on for about 100, just over 100 pop-ups, which for me is way too many. So what I tend to do these days is to split the egg into two, so I'm actually using a half egg mix. And in that half egg mix will give me 50 baits, which is more than enough for my requirements, because I'll get bored with using it and try something else after that. So I use half an egg basically. Into that half an egg I will put 5 ml of flavour in. So it could be, in this particular instance, 2.5 ml of the dairy, 2.5 ml of the fruit. I'll also put in there a bit of sweetener, and in this case I'm using the Hydro Sweet, it could be any sweetener that you want. Put in a bit of bait preservative as well of late. I never used to do that, but then sometimes it did seem to be going off, so I started using a little bit of the bait preserver. Bearing in mind we're not making something for the fish to eat. This is just to catch them. This is just an attractor. We're not making food for them. So that goes in the mix. And then the last thing I put in, I haven't done it all the time, but occasionally I put it in, is the butyric acid. Now this stuff is, if you've never used it before, it's absolutely lethal smell-wise. If you get it on your hands, it takes days to get rid of it. But people swear by butyric acid. I used it a lot on my pike fishing, and I'm sure it accounted for a lot of the pike. So I put between 5 and 10 drops in with that half an egg. But keep whisking it up, because you'll find that as soon as you put those 10 drops in, it starts actually cooking the eggs. You can see the texture changing in the eggs. And then I put in half a teaspoonful of the orange dye. Now for this particular mix that I'm doing today, I'm actually putting a yellow one together for a project that I've got going on. So it's not actually going to be orange, but for those dairy fruits, I've been making them in orange. Why have I been making them in orange? Because Frank Warwick said his favourite colour was orange. So I gave it a go, and it seems to be working quite nicely. But as I say, for this particular mix, I'm using a yellow dye, and I'm only using one flavouring with a bit of sweetener and the butyric acid for a project. But the principles are exactly the same. Mix it all up, make sure it's all well blended in, and then you can start adding the wafter mix that you've put together, and then just keep adding it in, mixing it up with a fork till it gets too sticky, and then you have to get your hands in there. Now if you reverse to yellow dye or orange dye on your hands, then get yourself a pair of disposable gloves to wear. But I tend to mix it up with a fork till it all gets too sticky, and then work it with my hands till it's nice and pliable. And then I tend to put it into a bag to let it rest, let the powders absorb all that liquid, have a cup of coffee before I move on to the next stage, which is obviously the rolling part of things. Right, having rested the mixture in a plastic bag while I've had a cup of coffee, I then put the mixture into an extrusion gun, and then it has to be rolled out on the tables. Now normally what I've been doing is using a size 16 rolling table with a size 14 nozzle to give you those barrel-shaped wafters. But as I said, I'm doing a bit of a project with this one, so I've reduced the sizes. So I'm using a 14 rolling table with a 12 nozzle. But the principles are all exactly the same. So you just go through the process of extruding your sausage, and then a couple of quick rolls on the roller will give you that barrel-shaped wafter that you're looking for. And then the final part of the exercise, once I've rolled out the mix, is to put the baits into a small sieve and then immerse them into boiling water for a minute and a half, and then remove them from the boiling water, make sure the water keeps boiling, and put them onto a tea towel to get off the excess water. And then I put them onto a gardener drying tray. Now here's one that I did earlier of the orange dairy fruits. You can see they're split into half. the left hand side is the dairy fruit, the right hand side isn't dairy fruit. The only other thing I would say, if you're not into doing all that and you want a really quick fix, you can get some Northern Specials, CC Moore Northern Specials, and add some dairy cream to it, and that will give you a similar sort of an effect. Another good one is Dynamite's Tutti Frutti. Do a nice little orange wafter that you can add your own flavours to, and it hasn't got to be dairy fruit. So there you have it. For those who are interested, that's how I do my dairy fruits, but they can be any combination of flavour and any colour you want. So until we meet again, cheers for now.